Hey, Consul, you muted, yo.
My apologies, my brothers, but I can't hear a sound.
Nah, I think his mic is muted. I'm trying to let him know his mic is muted right now. Hey, Consul, we can't hear you, yo. I think your mic is muted.
Man. Okay, I had some internet problems. Actually, hold on. You guys might have missed everything I said, but I'll condense it. Um, I do appreciate the haters. I do appreciate those that have flagged our channel, claiming that we have offensive and bullying information about a certain group of people. We're not going to announce your name because you're not worth speaking. You really don't have anything to do with it. You're really nobody's, but you're somebody to someone. So we'll respect you in that aspect, and we won't digress to the level that you're on. But what we will say is thank you very much, because it lets us know we're doing our job. It lets us know that we're on point with what we're doing and we're 100% authentic. And it's not a popularity contest. This is just about putting information out there and allowing people to use their own minds to decipher information. So if you're upset or your feelings are hurt, who gives a fuck? Kindly from Team Osiris. We don't care. If it's about protecting our people and uplifting our people, whether you're a white supremacist with a white face or black face, you're going to have a problem. That's what you're going to have. If you want to get personal, that's not what we're here for. That just shows the kind of weakness that you have because you're intimidated by your peer. And obviously you're not a peer because you got to go outside the information to attack it. So I wanted to address that on behalf of Team Osiris, get that out of the way. So those of you saying, who is this channel? What is this? Well, we had to use a temporary channel because we got cats that are in their feelings like chicks. So we don't have time for that. We're here to give information and give knowledge and wisdom under the spirit of solidarity and unity. So, and moving on, we have someone dynamic on the show. You know, I've watched this brother for a very long time and seen him with his own opinions. Some of his stuff I don't agree with. But that wasn't the point. It was the point that he was genuine and passionate about what he does and what he believes in. And he's an intelligent brother. And if we actually call ourselves conscious, then we should know how to be conscientious in our conscious actions. And that's why I always say, make your word bond and your mind like water. Your mind should be able to adapt and adjust to all things and get understanding and knowledge from all things. So I want to open the floor to our brother Zan Lex, man. What's going on, King? How you be? Shalom.
Shalom, shalom, peace, hotep. It's an honor, man. It's an honor because for a long time.
Brother Zan, if you're there, I cannot hear you.
Can you hear me any better now? Can I be heard? Can I get a mic check? Can I be heard?
I can hear you.
Okay. If there's another problem with my voice, just please let me know. So first thing I want to say is shalom to the listening audience. I want to say peace.
Brother Zan, I cannot hear you, brother.
Consu, he's clear. I think it. Hold on, I'm sorry, Zion. Consu, Zion's clear. I think it might be your mic, because I can hear him clear.
Okay, brother Zion, you might have to drop off and come back in because I cannot hear you. If you can hear me, I cannot hear you.
Okay, I'll log off and come back in. Consu, if you can hear this, I'll log off and come back in.
Well, while Brother Zion is fixing that problem, I definitely want to interject on religion, because a lot of people will say, well, you know, Brother Zan Lex is encompassed in a religion. Or African spirituality consists of religion. So we're going to delve into that today as well. We're going to talk about that and ask Brother Zion some questions, and he's going to be straightforward. Brother Zion, are you there?
I'm absolutely here. Can you hear me any better?
Can anyone on the panel hear Brother Zion?
I can hear Zion. I can hear him. I think it might be your mic. I think
Consu. You guys hear me?
Yeah, I think your mic might be the issue. I can hear you.
Okay, Brother Zion, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, there you go. Because I couldn't hear you.
I think it might be your mic. I think.
Yeah, I had some mic issues. I'm so sorry, man.
I think your mic might be the issue. Can you?
Okay, Brother Zion, can you hear me?
Yes. I don't recognize your voice.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it was. I think it was on my end, so forgive me for the confusion. But yes, go ahead, brother. How are you doing this evening, man? How you feel?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. As I was trying to say, it's an honor to be on the show, to join the brothers, and to be able to first and foremost listen, as well as to share my thoughts. I think that for a very, very long time, aside from talk of the Titans, we've yet to see a genuinely uh, fairly balanced platform where people can be heard genuinely without sabotage, without people going out of their way to misconstrue your voice so as to give the people who are under, I guess, for lack of a better term, their payroll, any credibility. With that being said, I got a chance to listen to some of your recent shows, and we've been friends, knowing each other for some while. So I understand your integrity. I understand you're an honorable person, and I have a great deal of respect for you, as well as brother Ngozi, aka Amir. I've always spoken highly about Ngozi. Um, Most people who know me personally know that. I say great things about that brother, both in public as well as in private. And again, it's just an honor to be on the show. And I welcome all questions, and I definitely would like to share some of my thoughts as well.
No doubt, man. I want to do something a little different here. You know how sometimes people ask you about what's presently going on or basically your past. You being an outspoken brother, I want to ask what's going on present day, Zan? What's happening right now with Zan Lex? What are you formulating and putting together, man? What do you have going on today, man?
I appreciate it, man. Well, I'll start with today. I cannot say the individual's name, but I just strike the deal to have a major debate with a very, very well-known debater in the formal debate world, not so much as the black conscious community, but in the formal debate world. Someone actually reached out to me who is very well known, and I think a lot of people will be shocked when they hear his name. I was asked not to announce it until we discuss further details, but as of tonight, I'll be debating someone who's a formal debater. He's also a European on a major, major platform, which is a great look. November 12th, which is the month of my birthday is a week before, I'm due to be speaking at Morehouse College. That's a great thing for me. So far, I've only spoken in yeshivas or local universities here in New York, local colleges. I've never actually traveled outside of the state of New York to speak in a college, much less an HBU, a historical black college. So it's an honor to have that opportunity to go speak at Morehouse this coming November, and that's some of the things that are coming up, man.
Oh man, that's powerful. That's something that we all should strive to put ourselves in, is out of that box, because we're dealing with scholarship, and scholarship is a universal understanding. It's not dealing with a finite group of people, and being willing to push the limits of understanding and coming to know things that are of importance, such as spirituality, religion, anthropology. Where do we come from? These kind of questions that always arise as we learn, get to know each other and know self at a greater level. One question that I know people are asking: Team Osiris. Most of us are agnostic or pantheistic. We're definitely not atheists. And you being an Israelite, how did this come about? What sparked you to say, you know what, man, I need to start networking with my fellow brothers? What gave you that motivation?
In terms of working with brothers outside of the Hebrew paradigm, or are you asking me in terms of coming into acknowledging myself as a Hebrew?
Well, outside of the Hebrew paradigm,
Okay.
like dealing with Team Osiris, dealing with myself, Team Osiris.
Okay. Okay. Well, first and foremost, I'll say this. That idea was born out of my foundation. Before embracing Hebrew Israelite culture and ideology, I was strictly a Pan-Africanist. I was made, molded, and shaped this way by my father, who's actually a Rastafarian. And he raised myself, my brother, and my sister, of which I'm the middle child, to be Pan-Africanists. My idols coming up were Marcus Garvey, bar none. He still is There's no single leader to date that has moved me more than Marcus Garvey. In fact, I'm going to even go take it a step further and say that even among my Hebrew brothers, there has been no brother to date that has moved me more than Marcus Garvey. And that takes nothing away from the great Hebrew brothers that I've come in touch with. But I mean, I fell in love with the character, personality, and works of Marcus Garvey at such a young age that it is literally inbred and grounded in my psyche, and that will never go away. It's a part of who I am. So me wanting to work with brothers outside of the Hebrew paradigm comes from my Pan-Africanist foundation, which is the idea that melanated people never had a thing where we couldn't cross the intellectual waters and grow and learn from one another. Certainly, melanated kingdoms fought one against the other, but in terms of wisdom, sharing, understanding, knowledge, gifting one another with the fruits of truth, those waters have always been traversed, those waters have always been crossed, and there has never genuinely been a barrier that has stopped black melanated communities throughout the globe from coming together to embrace truth on a much higher level. There were always societies, be it public, secret, or private, where we convened and we traded ideas. I think that outside of antiquity, one of the most modern representations of that is clearly the golden age of the Moors, where we saw so many brilliant minds from so many different walks of life come together and convene in so many parts of the world that were considered Moorish territory at the time, but yet not one of those individuals held themselves to the title Moor exclusively, because we all had different ideologies, we all had different views. I think more so it was the outside looking in who identified us as Moors. So again, with that being said, I have a very strong Pan-Africanist foundation, and I firmly understand that in order to grow and in order to survive, that's the word I'm looking for, in order to survive this diaspora, we need to unite. I have a saying that I go hard for right now, which is disunity in a time of war is tantamount to treason. I'll say that again. Disunity in a time of war is tantamount to treason. Any brother, no matter what walk of life you come from, no matter what sphere of spirituality you claim, embrace, and convey, if you cannot unite with your brother simply because he has an opposing view, you are committing an act of treason, and you know how that's dealt with in a nation. This is not the time for disunity. This is not the time for division. This is the time for our people to come together. I have made a conscious decision to stay away from platforms, peoples, and individuals that breed division among the great intellectual melanated minds that have come forth in our community. I have made a conscious decision to try to stay away from various individuals and platforms, because I understand firmly that when that police officer gets on his patrol, he doesn't care that the Hebrew got his fringes on and is letting the world know I am different from the Kemetic brother with the Ankh. All he sees is niggas. Bottom line. That's all they see. And that's all they have ever saw, and that is possibly all they will ever see within us or without us. With that being said, we have to recognize that, and we have to counter that by, number one, unifying. Again, disunity in a time of war is tantamount to treason.
Well said. With that being said, let's talk about religion and spirituality.
Okay.
I tend to believe that spirituality is a free act, but in order for spirituality to be applied in day-to-day life, you need structure. Henceforth, a religion or religious action within spirituality. Could you kind of shed light on the religion of your spirituality and your opinion on that? Because a lot of people may have you misunderstood. Not that it matters to you. But to
Okay.
those who are sincere and want to learn from you,
Right.
who and what is Zan Lex when it comes to religion and spirituality?
Okay. So first and foremost, let's deal with some definitions really quick. So most Hebrews detest, and I choose the word carefully because I believe that when Hebrews hear the term religious, it's almost disgusting to a lot of us because many of us in the conscious community, we understand that a religion is meant to physically and spiritually strip you of your intellectual warfare and of your intellectual armor. Intellectually speaking, religion robs you of your intellectual armor. I want to say that again. Religion robs you of your intellectual armor. To which I'm pretty sure the next question is, well, why are you a Hebrew then, brother? Because you deal with religion. Anything dealing with God is a religion. And here comes the problem. Because when we talk about melanated civilizations of antiquity, we may not want to use the term God as we know it is of European origin. But if we talk about the idea of a creator, certainly this was an idea that was not only conveyed among great melanated societies and nations, but it was even revered. You know, it is not a stretch or a reach to say that the melanated civilizations of antiquity birthed the God consciousness that we see in the world. Not just today, but yesterday. Melanated people gave the world God consciousness, of which I would call spirituality. Because no two melanated nations may think the same or convey that idea the same, certainly they may have different names, appellations, titles, or words to describe that great creator. But certainly we were all in unison about their being creator. And certainly Kemet was no exception to that rule. So I want to first say that I negate the term religion. I speak about the Torah and the legacies inherent within it as a heritage. As a heritage, meaning that this is something that we inherited from our forefathers. It began as an oral tradition, and as you already know, the way that history works, before something is penned, it is first orated. So all history is first oral. It first, goes from word of mouth, and then it is at a certain point it is penned. With that being said, the spirituality conveyed in the Torah is African spirituality. Those who understand the original language of the Torah have no problem seeing that crystal clear. Most people and their understanding of the Torah or the Old Testament or even the Bible is limited to the King James Version, which is limited to identifying Afrocentric truth from Eurocentric spectacles. King James did not write the Bible, he translated it. We know that Wallace Budge did not write the Book of the Dead. We know he translated it. But most people will call King James the author of the Bible because he translated it, but no one will call Wallace Budge the author of the Book of the Dead or the Peret Emheru, the Book of the Coming Forth by Day, because common sense tells you that the translator is not the author. The translator is the translator. On top of that, we know also that there's a saying, lost in translation. Lost in translation is the idea that languages of antiquity were very unique. Unless they lived adjacent one to another, most nations, peoples, and societies had words that when we translate them into another language did not capture or encapsulate the thought originally conveyed. For instance, when we talk about the word for love from an English perspective, it is spoken of as an emotion. The root of emotion is motion, or i.e., that which transit, that which moves. We know love to be the polar opposite from a Hebraic point of view. From the Hebraic point of view, love is an action word. You have to do something. In the Medu Netta, the glyph for love is a plow. The idea inherent in that is that you have to work towards expressing that love, showing it, manifesting it, making it a feasible and tangible reality that can be felt. Action speaks louder than words. That's love. Saying all that to say, you will never crystallize a concept or an idea in a language that is transliterated from the original. You have to always go back into the original. And I agree with John Henry Clarke when he went on record and said, don't throw away the Bible, because in it is conveyed African history. From the point of view of John Henry Clarke, he viewed the Bible as stories that originally came out of Africa. And as a result, he said, do not throw away the Bible, because in it is African mythology. In it is African history. You have to learn to disseminate or differentiate the fact from the fiction within the story, but nonetheless, it is conveying African history and tradition. And this is why I respect those great master teachers, because even in their critique, they always kept it absolutely 100. So to lastly end my thought on what is the religion of Zan Lex, Zan Lex has no religion. Zan Lex has a deep affinity and attachment to African tradition as conveyed in Hebrew culture.
Well said. And I appreciate that, man. That was, I think people needed to hear that. What is your opinion on Kemet versus Hebrew? I know you've done a lecture with where you were involved with Shaka Ahmos, and you've been outspoken before. What is your opinion on that particular construct, Kemet versus Hebrew?
The very title breeds contention, right? Because whenever we pit one against the other, it is for the sake of contention, to contend one against the other. So when we use terms like versus or against, we're talking about creating an intellectually contentious environment. And I believe this is what we saw, and this is what we're seeing. I came into the conscious community, or was introduced to the conscious community via Nasi Yashuva. And he brought me in specifically to deal with a person that he described as very conniving. I'm referring to Brother Polite. And he believed that me and Polite, although sharing different views, we still had a lot of things in common. So he believed that I was the perfect person to come in and deal with Polite, and that's what I did. But when I walked into the community and I introduced myself at the Magic Johnson Theater in Harlem for the very first time, speaking on Sarnetta, I spoke very humble. So humble that in Brother Polite's response to my first video, he said, Nasi, you got to do much better. You got to bring me somebody much harder. This brother is too soft. He's too humble. He's not ready. Well, since then, the brother has described me as an earthquake, a tornado, and a hurricane. Why? Because I'm a personality, I'm a water element, and water reflects its environment. Mm-hmm. Anything that water comes in contact with, the water can adapt to it, correct?
Correct.
And my birthday is November 7th, and my affinity with water speaks to my character. You put me in any environment and I will become it. So the brother asked for a more rigid side of me, and that's what I gave him. So much so that the turn up that he was asking for, he begged for me to turn it down. And eventually I did. What I feel about contention with ideology, I think that it has some positive, but it mostly has some negative. The positive that it has is, the bottom line is, there is not going to be any melanated utopian society created by us or our descendants, our children, until we confront the ideas which separate us most. And it just so happens that from time immemorial, the single most thing that has separated mankind, not so much melanated people, but mankind, is ideas on spirituality. That is one of the single most things that has separated mankind one from another. The way that we refract and reflect spirituality, that great light. I'm speaking in the terms of light by using terms like refract and reflect, because I see spirituality as representing an infinite light. And until we emulate that light, we will continually be in the dark. So it's okay to sit on a couch and to have disagreements, but it's not okay to be so nasty with our disagreement that it leads to us downright disrespecting one another. Because at that point, we have sold ourselves to sin. We have sold ourselves and given in basically to the ego. And again, in a time of war, your ego has no place as well. Your ego has no place in a time of war. In a time of war, you cannot say I. In a time of war, you must say we. And being that all of us comprise the greater we, nothing should separate us from coming together. If your spirituality causes a stumbling block or a hindrance for you reaching out your hand to save me, I have a problem with your spirituality, which ultimately means I have a problem with you, because your spirituality is supposed to convey a light. Show me something that light won't pass through. I'll wait. So if the very properties of light and the very concept of light is that it will reach out, go through, travel within, become, immerse itself. If you're trying to convey that through your spirituality, then great. But if you're going opposite to that, then maybe you're not spiritual as you say you are.
You know, that's profound, bro. You know, we talk about the water principle all the time, and we talk about being spiritually grounded through pressure. And one thing that we've noticed with Team Osiris, and we see it in you, bro, is we're being given the Billy Badass title, the troublemaker title, the whistleblower, the one who wants strife. But we look at it as it's medicine. Medicine doesn't always taste good going down, but it fixes the problem. And you seem to take a no-nonsense approach to disseminating information and presenting information in an articulate fashion. I want to say for the record, and this is more of a statement, that Team Osiris and Zan Lex, you know, we're going to work on things in the near future, and we're going to be supportive of one another. And I really want to make that clear to the audience and those that appreciate and follow our brother Zan Lex. And I'll let him expound on the statement. But I really want to make that clear, because we got to move beyond the pettiness. Because at the end of the day, if you call yourself a historian of African culture, it is over 55, really 56, including Madagascar, union nation states that comprise Africa, over 13 million square miles. And you best believe there are so many different spiritual systems that people agree to coexist until they were colonized and put in a warped sense of identity and the loss of the African center. That's what has created that, and we are falling in paradoxes of our oppressor. We are mimicking our oppressor out of repression. That's initially what is happening to us. And we're trying to make this union a representative of being intellectually mature and knowing how to separate your personal emotion from what is necessary and righteous to the overall cause. And Zion, I wanted you to expound on that, brother, on the fact that we are coming together, and regardless of what the haters going to think, this is not going to stop. So I want you to expound on that, brother Zion.
Thank you very much. I want to first expound by stating this. Automatically, when I put up the title on my Facebook page, on my Twitter, some of the people who know me They said, "Oh man, I was waiting, for you to get at Team Osiris. I can't wait, man. Another one bites the dust." And this speaks to, I don't want to say the ignorance of anyone, but this just speaks to an environment created by a single entity, so much
Mm-hmm.
so that whenever you see two opposing schools of thought, you believe that there must be a showdown, an intellectual showdown. When are we going to make synonymous two opposing schools become an intellectual bill and not an intellectual showdown? When are we going to do that? We're doing that right now. We're crossing those barriers right now as we speak, because I have made a pledge to wave the white flag on attacking brothers on the basis of their views, because I understand that the bottom line is we are the same people, and we can stay and shout on a corner from sun up to sun down about how much we disagree with one another's views of the world, but the bottom line is that enemy, that overseer, that officer sees us both as the same nigger. And until we realize that our unity must be greater than any difference that we may have, we are going to continually get gunned down in the streets. Why not look at all of these great intellectual schools of thought, and each one of them are great in their own respect. Let's not be facetious, right? Let's not be disingenuous. No one school of thought has it all. If you think like that, you might as well pack it up right now, because the goal of learning is to unlearn. I'm gonna say that again. The
Say that
goal of
again.
learning is to unlearn. That means you don't know it all. In the school of life, everybody's got a piece of the puzzle. And in our disunity, we will never come together to see that full picture. It
Now
takes
that
our
right there,
unity.
you know I'm gonna steal that, bro. So I'm gonna steal that. The goal of learning is to unlearn. I'm gonna quote you though. I'm not gonna
Absolutely.
plagiarize you. I'm gonna give you quotation.
We're going to get there too. We got to get there too. I wouldn't be me if we didn't get there, because we
Oh
have to
yeah.
be fairly balanced. But, I want to make it clear that this show tonight is not about attacking Kemet once again, as Zan Lex has been notoriously known to do. I've never once attacked Kemet. Ooh, there he go, lying Zion. I've never once attacked Kemet. There he goes. Zion's such a goddamn liar. We got the tapes. Well, guess why I'm saying I've never attacked Kemet? You
Right.
see, I was chilling, minding my business. And the call came to me and said, man, the Bible is on attack. And I said, well, I represent one half of it. I don't know about the Bible. I'll defend the Torah, but I don't know about the Bible. Well, brother, you got to defend the Bible, because the bottom line is people on the outside see it all as one book. They don't see it as old and new. They see it as one book. So either you're going to get on the front line and defend these truths, or you're going to stay on the side and be weak sauce. So the brother speaking to me knows me very well, and he knew how to get to me. He knew how to talk to me. He knows that, listen, I don't play, man. I'm a very serious. People that know me could tell you straight up, I do not play any games. I'm a very, very thoroughbred type individual. I can be as soft as a drizzling rain, or I could come down hard like a thunderstorm. I really don't play. And when put in a contentious environment, I only grow, which is natural. You're supposed to grow. Genuine growth is born out of contention, or i.e. struggle. You don't grow unless you are challenging yourself. If you're not challenged, you'll never grow. With that being said, I've always pushed myself to grow by pitting myself against the big dogs on the block, be it intellectual or physical. With that being said, I just don't see us as a collective community. ever having genuine success, because genuine success is not the Black News 102 van, shots fired.
Yes,
Say
sir.
that again. Genuine success is not the Black News 102 van. You know why? Because although Black News 102 provides a platform for everybody to speak and even afforded me at that platform, it is still very biased to anyone outside of the Kemetic paradigm. So if we're going to have genuine success, it must be achieved by the collective body. All of us must enjoy that success in order for it to be genuine success. I think Rick Ross said something real great. He said a boss is a person that makes sure that everybody eat.
Come on, man.
So you can't be considered a successful boss and you got starving people on your team.
Around you, right next to you, starving.
That's right.
Come on,
so if we real when we say,
that shit right there.
yeah, that's real rap. If we real when we say,
low blow.
listen, if we real when we say that we are all melanated African people, and we genuinely love all melanated African people, and we understand that in order for us to stand, everybody must stand, and we got to live by that. We can't say it and not do it. Our speech has to be in concert with our actions. And so far in the conscious community, I've seen more speech and very, very few actions. But I do applaud things that I've seen in the Kemetic community that I think is great for growth. I do applaud things that I've seen in the Moorish community, which I think is great for growth, etc., etc. Again, we all got a piece of that puzzle, but it takes unity to put it together and see that full picture. With that being said, man, I'm going to be pushing for Hebrew brothers not to be in forums and platforms trying to kill Kemet, trying to kill Islam, trying to murder Nuwapians, but to exchange points of view on a level that will build and not destroy. But then there's always that bright person in the room, right? That says, come on, brother Zan Lex, I thought you was a smart brother. You can't build unless you destroy. You say that you moonlight as a construction worker. Well, the first thing that happened on a construction site is demolition, right? To which I say no. You see, you talking about a construction site where an old building is being renewed. We're not talking about bringing back anything that is old. We are talking about building something that is new. And when you are building something that is new, there's nothing to tear down because it is entirely new. So if you feel, go ahead.
Well, let me interject just momentarily. I don't want to disrupt your flow, but what you know, let me say this because I know people are listening and there's some things they want to know. But before we get into those spurious questions that everybody always has about Zan Lex, it's groundbreaking what you're saying, and I think one byproduct, Zion, is when you're not actually. What I've noticed in the conscious community is we got a few derelicts. And let me say this, I'm all for black power, African unity. But I believe in dealing in white supremacy, you got to take out the trash first and let the cream of the crop rise to protect our people. We can't have a half-assed soldier. We can't have that. We got to have people that are battle-tested and also are certified successful and productive. If you're not successful and productive in this supremacist system, or have some means of being able to be battle tested, how you think you're going to fight that European? If you're not a successful individual, if you're not bringing things into fruition in your environment, then logically you are just delusionary and having delusions of grandeur because you're truly not who you say you are. And bosses, if you're a boss and you empower people around you, then you are not uncomfortable when another boss comes across from you. You're not intimidated. As a matter of fact, you honor it. You know, you sit at a table of made men, made individuals, you come together with a plan and you make things happen. That's how white supremacy works. So when I look at this, I ask you this because you're a dynamic brother. I would love if we had debates, Team Osiris and Zan Lex and other brothers of different ideologies and beliefs, because we can debate and as men leave it on the table and go have dinner afterwards and say, damn, Zion, that was powerful, man. I learned something from you tonight. Because, number one, you can't have a battle rapper mediating a historiologically spiritual or religious topic. That is absolutely asinine. You can't have inadequate moderators that moderate debates. So in my opinion, and my question to you in this is Zion, would we be able to have great debates? I only debate my peers. I don't debate anybody beneath me. It's only going to make me look foolish. I'm going to debate somebody I can learn from. What is your opinion on that?
All right, so I totally agree with you on that. And to touch on a point that you make, I'll develop my rebuttal by saying this. I recently said to somebody that what I spoke on coming into the conscious community is materializing before our eyes. The very first time that I really got my feet wet in the conscious community, about 90 days or 3 months in, I said, man, it looked like battle rap in here. I said, you know, I follow battle rap. I know what it looks like. You know what I mean? And the bottom line is the conscious community seemed like battle rap. And with the debate with Harry Rosenberg and Brother Polite, we had one of the most notorious and infamous battle rap hosts of all time, Smack, hosted. That's where we're going with this, man. Yeah. I said to somebody just last night that I won't be surprised if the next major debate, the first person that speaks opens up their discourse with these words. I said, you know how battle rap starts? That's what we getting at. That's what we really getting at. I was watching just last night, shout out to the young brother, Pharaoh. Shout out to the young brother, Prince York. Why? My dad told me at a very young age, even in your critique, always build a person up. So shout out to those brothers. We surely have differences of opinion, but these brothers are much younger than me. And with the level of understanding that I have, I won't even speak on knowledge right now. Those are two different concepts. With the level of understanding that I have, my understanding won't allow me to tear them down because of our differences of opinion. My understanding will allow me to always extend a brotherly hand to them and a brotherly gesture to them to ensure that there is no confusion in my intentions in terms of dealing with brothers like that. But I will say this. In watching their dialogue yesterday, it only let me see what is really materializing before our eyes.
Mm-hmm.
We are watching the downfall of consciousness in the black community. We really are. And that is no shot to those brothers. I am only using them because they are the most recent participators in that play. But we are watching the downfall of consciousness in our community if you really pay attention. Shaka Amos ends the Moors. Really? So you're going to do a lecture today, and you're going to stop an entire community doing what they've been doing 40, 50 years, longer than you've been born? If your ego is that bright, you must surely be a fallen star.
Well, let me, before I open I'm going to open the panel up. You know, we got distinguished members from Team Osiris, and of course Team Offset, Queen Efaka. We got Brother Kufu, co-founder of Team Osiris. We got the archivist, Brother Melvin, the Brother Heru, the Makut, and we got the Brother Joseph. These are all members of the Team Osiris Matrix, and respectively Team Offset. Before I open the floor, I got two questions, man. I'm one. I love controversy because I love cats that think it's sweet. I'm more no nonsense in my dissertation. Number one, the polite issue. I've never been impressed with polite. I'll say that me individually. Never been impressed by him. Number two, the situation surrounding your fellow Hebrews, be it messianic, non-messianic, other camps. Why does it seem to be a disconnection between you and certain Hebrews? And also the fallout with SETI. I thought that was going to be a really good debate, man. I thought that one right there would have been two polarized individuals with the same fiery spirit, same determination. And I know that's a multitude of questions, but I know you'll be able to field that. Do you care to discourse on any of that?
Well, absolutely. Let's start off with Brother Polite, since we'll start off in the order that you gave it to us. My thoughts on Brother Polite in terms of being impressed with him, I'm equally not impressed with Brother Polite. Brother Polite, in my opinion, and I must always be real, I don't know how to be any other way, is certainly a gifted individual. But in my humble opinion, I believe that that's a given in the melanated community. I am not impressed when I watch melanin in its potential behave greatly or exude greatness. That doesn't impress me. That's what melanin do. Would you be impressed when you watch Muhammad Ali's daughter, Layla Ali, lay people out? She come from Muhammad Ali. That's what they do. I'd be surprised if I seen anything less. So I'm not impressed by Brother Polite because I believe that that's what melanin does. And I'm speaking of Polite right now in his positive attributes. I say that because I don't believe that anyone is entirely evil, entirely wicked, or entirely wrong. I think anybody that thinks like that is not being entirely true or honest. There's always a good and there's always a positive. Sometimes there's always a positive and a negative. Sometimes the negative may outweigh the positive, and this is what stains the character of the person before the people. But nonetheless, we cannot act as if there is no positive. With that being said, there are certainly things about the brother that I can respect. But for me, the negative outweighs the positive. For instance, Polite has gone on record attacking every melanated paradigm aside from Kemet. At one point, he even started to tiptoe and attack Kemetic ideology when he challenged Shaka on the idea of whether or not alien intervention was a precursor in Nile Valley pyramid making. I'm not sure if people remember that, but I do. I remember when Shaka sat on the couch and told Polite to his face that anyone that believes that the pyramids have extraterrestrial influence is a charlatan. And I remember Polite's face changed dramatically at the notion that his brother would call him a charlatan. I remember that.
Mm.
What I don't like or dislike about the brother Polite is that he attacks melanated societies and thought systems and offers no genuine solution. What do I mean? You see, I don't have a problem with a person saying this is wrong and this is wrong and this is wrong and this is wrong. But I expect them to follow up with, and this is right, and this is right, and here's what you missed, and here's what you can add. I expect that. I have yet to genuinely see that from that brother. And until I see that, that will always be agent-like behavior, in my opinion. Here we go, Zan Lex, you reaching. Well, am I? This is the same brother that told you the reason why he was able to get you footage of a museum in Kemet is because he had body cams on him that cost thousands of dollars. I'll let you draw the conclusion. Moving on to Brother Seti. Brother Seti has a fiery spirit, and I certainly love that about him. And I know that you and I slightly disagree on this, but I think that SETI is genuine in wanting to see black people become liberated from this system. Whether or not he expresses that eloquently is another issue. But I'm a person that I have a very, very keen gift of looking at an individual, watching and studying them, and being able to observe their wholesome and genuine intentions. And my observation of that brother leads me to believe that he's genuine in wanting to see black people become liberated. I think that his methodology is sloppy, and there is where we have issues. I think that it's intelligent to consider things before we act. So if something is wrong with a building, we may not necessarily need to burn it down. We may simply need to climb up to the 8th floor and rescue those people. We may not have to burn the whole building. And I've observed that SETI's behavior is we got to burn the whole building and start over. And in my opinion, that's just not intelligent. Because number one, anytime you use more energy in the universe to do something that requires less energy, you have taken away energy not just from you, yourself, but you've also taken energy away from the universe. So the universe itself will act against you. And I think ultimately, SETI's works, his actions, and his progress will work against him because of his sloppy methodologies. We surely disagree on our views on spirituality. But one thing we agree on, which I think is ironic, is me and SETI both believe that African civilizations, in the plural, birthed spirituality and God consciousness. I remember when Brother Benjamin Nile, who I've disagreed with openly and privately, and I think is a good brother. You know, sometimes when we disagree, you know, as men, the egos jump and, you know, we trade low blows, but at the end of the day, you's a goddamn man. I'm a goddamn man. Suck that shit up. Men fight. Get over it. Men bleed. Wipe it. I love that brother because I believe that that brother loves his people. Do we agree on everything? No. But I love my people, and I believe he loves his people. But in watching the dialogue between him and SETI, he said something that shocked me, Brother Benjamin Nile. He said that evolution and the evolutionary model, although it may not come out of Kemet, it can certainly be found in the African cultures that precede Kemet, of which he pointed towards the Great Lakes region in the south. And SETI followed up with a very nice triple uppercut that Mike Tyson usually buckled his opponents and spelled game over with. SETI responded and said, I'm going to make it real simple for you. We all agreed that although Kemet got everything from the south, all of the information from the south that made its way up to the Nile Valley part of Kemet, Kemet became the apex or the zenith of those thoughts, of those ideas, and of those knowledge brackets, for lack of a better term. With that being said, Kemet became the repository or the template for all of the deep South Saharan spiritual, cultural, intellectual ideas were all manifest in Kemet. And then SETI said, when you look at the walls in Kemet to see what was manifest, it shows you Khnum molding a man. It don't show no monkeys. It don't show no apes. It don't show no amoebas. It shows Khnum molding a goddamn man. I have to say it in the spirit of SETI because I respect him, and that's exactly how he said it. And when I watched and viewed that, I looked at that as a triple Mike Tyson uppercut because the opponent was left out at that point. Because if Kemet becomes the repository or the template for all of the expressions of African spirituality that made its way from the south but wound up in Kemet as its zenith or apex of its expression, if Kemet didn't speak on it, this is not what the collective consensus was. So when we look at isolated civilizations in Africa, surely I wouldn't even deny that there may have been African civilizations, not many, that did not embrace that. But that certainly was not the collective consensus. The collective consensus of African spirituality made its way to Kemet. And Kemet revealed a deep spirituality that showed you what we would call today God consciousness, because we are speaking the Europeans' language. Until I see somebody in a platform get up and speak fluently in our native tongue, we have to acknowledge that we are speaking in the Europeans' language. So when I use the term God, don't count me as one of the lost ones, because I'll give you information on that word God that'll blow your head off. I'll tell you about the term Necha, Necharu, or Netert in Kemet that may surprise you. I'll talk about Deneger or Dinger in Sumeria that'll really lift your top off. And when I talk about Elohim, I hope you could appreciate it. And that's beautiful, because there was no hate. I'm not speaking against what Kemet called a Necha. I'm not speaking against what Sumeria called Deneger or Dinger. And I'm certainly not speaking against what the Hebraic perspective of Elohim conveys. But we have to get to a point as scholars, leaders, and teachers where we can share opposing views in a way that builds and not destroys. Well, come on, Zan Lex, you seem to be the master at that. How many times we've seen you in platforms really building, brother? Well, I'll tell you this. Provide a platform that is totally unbiased and you'll see a different spirit. If you put me in a room of contention, that's what you're going to get, goddammit.
Well, let me say this. I'm going to open the floor to my peers. I'm sure they have questions, and then we're going to talk about after we field those questions, some uncomfortable truths. We're going to talk about that. But I open the floor to my peers. Queen Nefaka, Brother Melvin, Brother Joseph, Brother Haru. I digress.
Yo, this brother Heru, y'all can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. I respect the dialogue we having right now. I just had one little bit to add to that. As far as Kemet being the apex of Northeast Africa, that is correct. But when we say everything from Kemet came from the south, I don't think that's necessarily historically accurate, because we have to look at those people per se. Then we also have to look at different time periods, because in Kemet they were doing different things at different time periods. The rulership changed hands to many different families over the course of thousands of years. Then we also have to understand that everything that was done in the South by different ethnic groups didn't always make it up to Kemet. That's what I'm saying. So we got to keep everything in a certain context and not try to blanket it all together and make it seem like, well, everything came up from the South and that's where all the knowledge is. Because I can easily tell you about the Hadza tribe, who are definitely older than the people of Kemet or Kemet itself, and they had a mythological story that's similar to what modern science would call the theory of evolution. But Kemet didn't adopt it. It wasn't necessarily because it wasn't a general consensus. It's just that we don't have anything linking these groups of people together at all. We don't have anything saying that they were contacting each other on a regular basis or sharing stories. You got to remember, Kemet had its own cosmology within that structure. And not only did it have its own, but it changed several times over the courses of thousands of years. Because you'll have time periods where certain Neteru weren't even looked up to or used, and you get new ones. So we got to keep that in context also when we're speaking about Kemet in regards to its relationship to its neighbors to the south. And that's all I wanted to add, at least on that point anyway.
Can I respond to the brother?
Of course, bro.
Absolutely. Number one, I agree with you 100%. Beautiful. More dialogue like this needs to occur. Again, I'm sure that most people listening in didn't get their clicks worth because they were coming here to see Zan Lex chop up Team Osiris, or they were coming here to watch Zan Lex get buried by Team Osiris. But you're here watching black unity at its greatest. There's nothing that was said offensive today about any one group. Certainly, we are all entitled to critique, but there was nothing offensive said about any one group. In fact, there were things that said that pointed to the positive in several groups. More dialogues like this needs to happen on greater platforms, and we, as the teachers, leaders, and you listening out there as either future teachers and leaders, need to commend that from those who host these kinds of dialogues. You must get to a level where you say, I will not patron your platform until you show me adult behavior in your platform. Look at some of these platforms that are deemed great in the conscious community today. And I don't even have to name names. I'll leave it up to your imagination. Look at the comment box on these platforms. And I'll give you some names as an example, and I'll throw out mine as a very fair example. Let's say Zan Lex is on one of these platforms. And let's say Zan Lex is debating Brother Divine Prospect. This is all allegorical. This is not true. But let's just say that, right? Watch the comments. The people commenting are supposed to represent the conscious community. Follow each and every single comment and tell me that you're watching the conscious community. I'll wait. Every single comment got the F word, the bitch, from the same people that say the black woman is God. Let a sister get up there and disagree with them, and she's going to be a bitch real quick. The same people that say they love black people and will lay their life down for them, let a Hebrew get on and support another Hebrew and watch how we demonize them. Until we raise the intellectual bar of those who host these events, those who participate as teachers in these events, then we will always see the bar lowered in the conscious community's response to these types of events.
It's actually common sense. You would think it would be common sense. Common sense is really what intellectuality is all about, is logic. Not allowing yourself to be swayed in your logic and thought process. But I continue to open the panel to my peers. Any questions before we move forward? Zan Lex, I don't want to keep you, and I want to keep you all night, brother. Any questions? Okay, Brother Zion, I do have.
I'm sorry, Consul.
Go ahead, brother.
I have a question for I guess it's for the whole group, but especially for Zan Lex. We know it's really all about unity amongst each other. You can have your different ideologies, your beliefs, different philosophies and things like that. Do you believe it's possible that we could come to a historical understanding, and maybe some people can still keep their beliefs, and we can still function as a unit with each other, and make things happen? You know what I mean?
Okay, I'll take a page out of the testimony of the great Marcus Messiah Garvey. the great Negro agitator, as he was once called by his biggest hater. I'll pull a page from him real quick. Marcus Garvey showed that we can hold differences of opinion and function at such a high level that the government themselves will jump in and say, we got to stop this shit. Because check this out, my brother. Marcus Garvey, the leader of his choir, the person who composed the hymn they did sing for the UNIA, he was a Hebrew Israelite by the name of Rabbi Arnold Josiah Ford. This person also wrote their charter. Do the history. I'm not sure if you're able to come to New York City, or if you live in New York City, or if you know someone who can share the information. Maybe I can do it, because I have some screenshots of some information in my researches that I've gone up to the Schomburg Museum. Go to the Schomburg Museum and ask for the archive of Rabbi Matthews, who was a person that was, as Professor James Smalls told you, during my dialogue with Shaka, and even during my dialogue with Professor Smalls, he reminded us that the person who was credited with starting the Hebrew Israelite movement during the Renaissance era, Rabbi Matthews, is also the person who was the #1 confidant to Malcolm X. This is not per Zan Lex. Watch the video. This is Professor James Smalls, being the person who was the bodyguard of Malcolm X, told the community that the Israelite leader, Rabbi Matthews, he was the person that Malcolm X gave his ear to. He would literally close the door to everybody else. I got to hear this man speak. You see, Malcolm X was such a great leader because he understood that no one part of the movement got all the pieces of the puzzle. We all got a piece. And if we want to see this picture of black liberation, we have to come together. And he got that motto because he listened to his father, who was a follower of Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey and his movement spearheaded the United Nations becoming what it is today. The United Nations was once known as the League of Nations. Where did they get this idea from? During the Renaissance era in Harlem, Marcus Garvey was the first person in the world ever to have over 120 delegates from all over the world convene in Harlem annually for his UNIA parade, and during that weekend, they discussed matters of black liberation behind closed doors. Where did the UN get this idea from? You see, it's not that black people don't have great ideas, we just are horrible at executing it. So the white conspirators watching this great prolific speaker and leader, Marcus Garvey, do these great things, they formed the League of Nations, which was later became the United Nations. But it was Marcus Garvey that gave them the idea. They watched as this man was able to pull delegates from around the world to speak on not just the matters that are going on socio-politically in this country, but to talk about and unite on the idea that the black and brown man is a threat globally, and what are we going to do about it? So if Marcus Garvey was able to put aside his difference with the Moorish community, who existed while he was there and were a part of the UNIA, if he was able to put aside his differences with the newly forming, as they were just beginning to come around, Fard el Muhammad, who later started the Nation of Islam, if he was able to put aside his differences to allow individuals like that to join, if he was able to have Hebrew Israelites, leaders on the front lines of his movement, surely we have a template and a model for us coexisting and uniting and doing great things. Marcus Garvey put all of our great intellectual minds in one room and said, F talking about the things that we disagree with. Let's come together and let's build that goddamn Black Star Liner, put some money in our pockets, and then behind closed doors, let's iron out some of these things.
Mm-hmm.
Well answered, brother Zan Lex. I'm not a part of the Hebrew paradigm. I used to be in my past, so I know a lot from where you're coming from. I'm gonna leave it at that. But great answer though. Like I agree with that.
Yeah, I got a couple questions for the brother too.
Yes, go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
All right. The first question is I know you can't speak for all Hebrews, but as far as you and your particular camp, what are you guys doing to push STEM, or science, technology, engineering, and math in your particular Hebrew community? So basically, this is an educational question. What are some of the things you guys are teaching within your group? That's the first question.
All right, great question. First and foremost, I'm not familiar with STEM as you coin it, although I'm very familiar with scientific innovations in the past 10, 15, 20 years. Um, Upcoming, myself, Sharif Bey, definitely, and possibly Supernova, and hopefully we can get some members from Team Osiris to join in. We're having something called the Creation Conference. The Creation Conference is designed to show the idea that one thing that all melanated civilizations of antiquity agreed with is the idea that we have a creator. That was the general consensus. We have a creator. We want to show through science that we can prove some of these theories as they are spoken of in a really formal environment. We want to show and prove that we can use science to articulate these truths that we hold dear to our hearts. With that being said, um, there are aspects of science that may include looking at stem cells, stem research, not necessarily the acronym that you just conveyed, that I may be using in that particular conference with the hopes of not just enlightening people on the idea of creation from an Afrocentric point of view, but also it's a science lesson. How many times do we see leaders in our community get up on major platforms and talk science? It's a beautiful thing, in my opinion, when we can mesh science with spirituality. I will always give credit where credit is due. One of the foremost platforms in YouTube world that I see meshing science and spirituality, and I'm going to give them the biggest shout out right now, is African Creation Energy on YouTube. Amazing, simply amazing. Now, of course, the brother meshes the spirituality out of the Nile Valley civilization with science because that is the paradigm that he exists and functions within. Nonetheless, I respect what he is doing, and I adjure a lot of people to check out the channel. Listen, Zan Lex is certainly not a biased individual. He's certainly not a closed-minded individual. I see all, I hear all, and I immerse in all because the idea of learning is to unlearn. In order to unlearn, you have to question everything you already know. If you think that you are the litmus test by which knowledge, wisdom, and understanding is measured by, then you're part of the problem. So with that being said, we certainly are going to embrace the community from a scientific point of view, while at the same time killing two birds with one stone, meshing that Afrocentric spirituality deeply into that paradigm.
Okay, appreciate it, brother. Understood. For the next question I got, it's kind of a two-part question, but it's gonna tie in together with together that I'm about to ask. Now I know most of us have saw the discussion with you and Baba James Smalls, and kind of like the outcome of it or whatever was going on with it. I wanted to ask you yourself, because I don't know if you got to publicly address it since it, what I'm saying, since it took place. But what are your feelings about Baba Small, and have you spoken with him since that discussion? Do you have any, animosity towards him, or anything like that, or what's going on with that?
Okay, so let me open up by saying this. Uh, I was introduced to Pan-Africanism from my father, who's a Rastafarian, who was always deeply immersed in black liberation movements in this country. My father is 59 years old. He'll be 60 in September. Um, my dad is a fan of the work of Professor James Smalls. My dad is also a fan of my work. He checked out the video and he, as he always does, gave me his critique. And he says to me, you know that I don't really accept all of your views on spirituality. And you also know that I highly value and respect Professor Small's contribution. And he said, if I'm going to offer any critique to you that I think is valuable, I'll offer this. Whenever you disagree with the elders, you always do so in a way that will always show honor, that will always show dignity, and that will always show respect for those that came before you. He followed by saying, I do believe you are entitled to feel that you should have been able to question him, seeing that you were given the opportunity by him to sit down and have a dialogue. In a fruitful dialogue about intellectual growth, if we're not raising questions, what are we talking about? So on that note, he totally agreed with me having every right to question Professor Smalls, and he offered his critique to say that he believes that that is where Professor Smalls was wrong. He was better suited to just admit from the beginning what he wound up admitting in the end, which is he was not prepared to have that conversation with me at that time. Had he said that from the beginning, there would be no need to have asked the questions that I did. The thing that I resent is my actions when he left the building. You know, Professor Smalls won't get this work. He got to feel it. You know, a lot of that came from the fact that I also had a lot of respect for Professor Smalls. And during my dialogue with Shaka, he told me that I could speak at any university throughout the globe. He said that I had a very high level of scholarship. He spoke of the Hebrew language as being an African-based language based on my ability to convey it as such. And less than a week later, he's in Atlanta saying Zan Lex did a horrible job. Now, I don't know as much as Kemet as some of you out there that may have 20, 30 years. But I know enough about this one word called ma'at, which at its zenith may represent truth. And one of the synonyms of truth is integrity. So if Zan Lex scholarship was horrible, Professor Smalls, as you said in Atlanta, you should have been able to tell the people and Zan Lex that day that it was also horrible, which you did not. You did the polar opposite. So that began some of my dissension away from looking at him as the great elder that I initially saw him as. The last straw was the idea that, remember, during my dialogue with Professor Smalls, I always ask questions in a way that would lead a person to stand on what it is that they believe or represent. I said to Professor Smalls during that dialogue very meticulously, Professor Smalls, do you care to speak about your relationship with some of the Hebrew Israelite leaders of past times? Do you care to elaborate on the fact that you buried one of our greatest leaders and teachers, Rabbi Halu Paris, who hails from Ethiopia? He is the son of Rabbi Arnold Josiah Ford, who again was the right-hand man of Marcus Garvey in the UNIA. Professor James Smalls buried him. He spoke at his eulogy. This is a Hebrew Israelite leader, very high stature in our community. I said to Professor Smalls, I believe in a very fair way. How is it that you can speak so great about Hebrew culture, Hebrew thought, and the Hebrew paradigm at this man's funeral, even admit that this man was one of your teachers, and then after he dies, you do a video on Sunday TV where you call the Hebrew way of life verbatim a piece of shit? Again, I may not know much about Kemet, as some of you that have 20 or 30 years in, but I know enough about this one word called ma'at, which represents truth.
Mm. Well said, man. Well said. I want to. Are there any other questions, Brother Melvin, Brother Heru, Queen Nefraka, if you're able to speak? Are there any more questions for the brother? I'm going to say, that the creation conference sounds very powerful, and I will say that there is open dialogue for debate there, because the majority of us, we are proponents for evolution. But I'm going to say this to those who've been subject, and I've said it before in past shows. If you're used to eating steak, or let's say your favorite meal on a garbage can lid, every day you eat your favorite meal on this garbage can lid, but then I take your favorite meal and place it in a proper place setting, you're going to realize what you've been missing out on. And then at the same time, you're going to realize what you've been subject to. And I say that in regards to debates and the structure in which they're being imposed in the conscious community. And I want to stress this, the black conscious community, the colloquial term black. I'm not going to get into pettifogging or splitting hairs on what the word black means. That's foolish to do that. But those of us who have grown up in this paradigm for the past 80 years on this land called America, we know what black means when we refer to people. We've been subject to subpar structure of debates. Debates are supposed to inform and enlighten, and also give perspective to two individuals that are combatants under integrity and fairness. Let me say this, and don't be surprised, because most people follow Team Osiris's patterns anyway. You should have a moderator that is knowledgeable of either both parties' past or the actual premise. Number two, both parties are to present their premise before the debate. So there's no hijacking of a person's character or overabundance of straw men and red herrings. Three, once the premises are given for the debate, they should be written in essay form and given to both parties. If I was to debate Zan Lex, I would need his premise on paper, and I would give him my premise on paper. I would put it in Harvard Notes format in an outline to understand the points of his claim. And we will both exchange that. We will also give notice to our source information. And then we will be given a period of time to prepare for the debate. Because what that does, it causes you to think. And then strategy comes into play. Because grammar, rhetoric, and logic all fall into the debate process. And when it's properly done, when it's timed fairly, and it's in a controlled environment, you actually get productivity and constructivity from the discourse, from the pragmatics, because the two individuals will then will have to use their rhetorical skill and the ability to be pragmatic in their discourse. This is how a proper debate is done. What you've been subject to is foolishness. Premeditated and grafted foolishness for the sake of superficial excitement. We're already being overstimulated with information every single day. When you turn on Facebook, now it's Facebook Live. Now I can show you foolishness live. Now I can mess with your original and natural processes of logic. The amygdala, the frontal lobe, the thalamus, and the hippocampus region of the brain all affect your stem cell transference of your synapses to the rest of your body. When you're overstimulated, you do not have the ability to discern logic and have trust in your logic to accept facts. Your reasoning of inductive and deductive nature are then impaired. So I say this because an individual such as Zan Lex deserves to have a proper debate only to show knowledge. When you gain understanding, you can apply the wisdom, i.e. abstract synthesization of your thoughts, to synthesize something with integrity. You can create something with integrity. And so these are the elements that need to be put in place that gives proper learning, proper discernment, that separates the men from the boys, may I say. Separates the Google scholar from one who actually reads and proofs a book. Because now what this community has created is the misfit who has no business in that field, And you will see a separation of the cream of the crop and those that pretend to be who they say they are. Because they prey like predators upon the ignorance of the parishioner of the conscious community. So the practitioner and the parishioner need to be put in check. But Zion, I want to close, but I want to give you the closing statement, man. I wanted to put that out there to let people know that Team Osiris, Zan Lex, all of us that are affiliates, we heavy. And that's not saying it egotistical. That means we are open and critical of ourselves. We hold ourselves to a standard. So I'll open the floor to you in closing, Brother Zion. And I appreciate you, brother. I really do, man. But I'll open the floor to you, King.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Those are some very rich and deep words, man. And, you know, to me, it only speaks to the fact that whenever we reach a level in our progress, conceptually speaking or cognitively speaking, where we think, again, that we are the litmus and the barometer by which truth is measured, we lose the opportunity to hear deep, insightful, and rich words from those whom we would normally think are of the opposing view. I'm not one to buck dance, so I got to end by saying this. One of my brothers just hit me up on Facebook and said, Zion, I don't know you to buck dance. And I'm listening to this hangout right now, and it sounds like you doing a little shuffle. So I'm going to say this right now. He said, and I won't call his name because I respect you, brother. So don't think for a second I'm about to call your name. But I am going to respond to you right now because that's just who I am. You have a problem with me throughout this dialogue using the term puzzle and acknowledging that no one group has all the pieces. And you said to me, Zion, I don't know you to buck dance. Why you keep saying that they got parts of the puzzle, man? The Torah is complete. We don't need them. Come on, Zion, not you. I don't know you to buck dance for the sake of appearing on no show. You'll shut a show down before you buck dance. So let me say this. In the spirit of wisdom, I want my brother out there who made a statement to me privately, I want you to listen keenly. Because maybe you weren't following me. Anybody who has ever put together a puzzle understands this. You have a puzzle, let's say, of 2,000 pieces. Let's get a little abstract. And you say to yourself, how the hell I'm going to get this together? And you start finding and fixing little pieces, and for the most part, it don't look like it's going anywhere. And then you start finding these pieces that you start noticing that when you put down this one piece, everything starts connecting around it. And you begin to notice that in every single puzzle, there is this one piece that every single piece will bind itself around. With that being said, we all have pieces of that puzzle, but there is one of us that has that piece that everything will bind itself around. We all want to believe we have that piece, but the only way we are going to see it materialize and manifest is if we all come together and get those pieces in on the table. And even to that person that has that one piece, that all the pieces bind itself around, the puzzle will not convey the picture unless every other piece is put and bound Remember, as great as you are nothing without the collective majority. Peace to you, brothers, man. It's been an honor.
Man, peace and respect, man. I kind of want to chime in on that, even though that was directed towards you from a comrade. If that's my culture, if the Torah is part of my culture, then I'm going to have pride. It's a thing called pride for your country and your family. So you're going to think it's the best because it's in your blood. Why would you denounce your blood? See, we get so intelligent that we become linear and we detach from African spirituality. If you believe in something strong enough and it's ingrained in the way that you eat, sleep, and drink, no one is going to be able to take that away from you. I heard Prince York. I did appreciate what he said yesterday in this, as much as I disagree with about 98.7% of what they was talking about. What he did say was, I remember when I was Ansar Allah. I grew up a Nubian Islamic Hebrew, and I was dealing with Dr. York. And I grew up in the Hebrew paradigm. It was, to me, the best stage of that development. And I know brothers today that still wear that insignia ring with the 6-pointed star. And that is commemorative because some of them left alcohol, drugs, killing somebody. It saved their life. So if that motif changed your life for the better, it made you a better person. It sent you on a better path. Why would you denounce it? All you do is you put that on your tool belt and use it in your toolkit of life. You take those things from it and you keep it and hold it dear to maintain your focus throughout this life. Because regardless of what paradigm you are fixed to, you still don't know what happens when you leave here. You still don't know what happens when you breathe your last breath. You still got to have some level of faith, whatever it is, because we all got to take that last breath. So with that being said, be intellectually mature. Don't isolate yourself in a box. One of my favorite sciences is the Sefer Yetzirah, which is the cube of space, dealing with the 22 letters of the Grammacia. Very powerful information if you have the mind to condense and understand it and not isolate it as only belonging to you. If Kemet is as powerful as Kemet is, it should be able to withstand any attack upon its character. Same thing with the Judean Hebrew faith. If it is what it is, then being an example, live and be an example of it and defend it through your actions. Let your actions be that of a Hebrew to show the goodness and the wellness in it. Because your actions are going to be the representative of whatever faith you claim. So you can either add to that faith in a positive way, or you can demean and demoralize it and actually hurt it in your zealot actions. You can become fanatical within your lifestyle because every spiritual system has a moral code of conduct. And if you're not following that code of conduct, it doesn't matter what you preach because you don't teach when you preach. So it really doesn't matter. So again, it's raising your level of true consciousness. You can be a Hebrew practitioner and ethnic person and still have a high level of consciousness. The term consciousness that we have been subject to is a colloquial term of endearment for the advantage of a group of supremacist-like people. So it's all about your level of understanding and wisdom and how you apply it. Can you see beyond what is seen? Can you see the quantum mechanics of a thing? That's when you know you're spiritually enlightened. The more you let go, and the more you put yourself in an infantile stage of being subjective, the more you can be objective. So those games are over with. Either you can handle it or get your ass out the way. Point blank, period. If you can't handle it, then you're going to take this ass whooping and take it as a lesson. You ain't got to give me praise. I don't need it. Just be better, because I'm still learning every single day. That's just what it is, and that's how we get down with Team Osiris. We're not here to cause no propaganda with Zan Lex. If me or anyone on Team Osiris feels inspired, man, I got Zan Lex on that. He don't know what he's talking about. I got him in a squared ring. then it's gonna be a Mayweather fight. And Zan Lex gonna be like, I got you. I'm gonna pop you though, son. You're not gonna get me. But guess what? We respectful men and we friends. That's what made men do. We don't get caught up in emotions and hating somebody because you know how to say the letter A better than me. That's lame. That's whack. That's homosexual tendencies by grown-ass men. You should be able to take pressure. If you a king, you a boss, you're head of your house, all these men acting like maidens. If you want to attack the intellectual, let's go. You can get this work. I'm not going to say but I don't know. Maybe I can hang. Maybe I can handle it. Why would I say that about myself? That's self-degrading. That's limiting thoughts. I'm going to always say I'm the best about something. So best believe, don't get it twisted. Team Osiris is not here to belittle or sensationalize Zan Lex. Because Zan Lex is going to still be Zan Lex. He's a grown man. We're not here to change any ideologies or thoughts. I expect him to still go in on anybody that's half-assing talking about Kimmy. If you know your shit, show and prove it. That's all. That's what it is. A smart man around other smart men chooses his words wisely. That's checks and balances amongst peers. So, with that being said, much respect to the brother Zan Lex. That's my brother. I love this brother. We're gonna get it. We're gonna get it cracking. And I appreciate Zion for knowing how to turn that switch on at any moment, like a pit bull, and lock on your ass. I love that shit because that's what grown men do. Go ahead, King. I don't want to interrupt the flow. Go ahead, King.
That's right, man. I want to also thank Team Osiris for allowing me to be on the platform. I know that in the past year and a half, almost two, that I've almost been a painful individual in the community, in that you've seen me go through the full spectrum of human emotion. At the end of the day, I would hope you can come out and say, well, you know what? At least the brother's real. Because
real talk.
You can't show me a man, a genuine man, that hasn't gone through the full spectrum of human emotion, and he's a real man. You see, I'm not a plastic man. I'm a real man. What you see in public is what you also see in private. And people that really know me will tell you, that's this brother. What you see on the camera, he don't be playing. That's him around the block. Whether it be smiles or whether it be no smiles. But at the end of the day, I can only be me and you can only be you. So with that being said, I thank you for looking past any part of my behavior that you disagreed with or even detested, and allowed me to appear on a platform to share my thoughts. And I look forward to us coming together again genuinely to build. And I also look forward to having some healthy dialogues and or debates. As the brother said, it's not a problem for us to enter the ring, stand on 10 toes, and do what it do. I think that's beautiful. One of the best people I ever seen get in the ring and handle business, and I have to always speak from my era, is Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson, what I notice about him is he beat the dog shit out of somebody. And at the end of the fight, go watch what Mike do. He go and kiss the guy on the cheek or hug him or embrace him, and he just whooped his ass. Think about that. I mean, but because Mike's a man, you know, every now and again he got to bite a motherfucker. You know what I mean? But he's a man. And this is what we have to realize about the people that we see on these platforms. Never build a man up so much that you forget he's a goddamn man. So if I apologize for anything, it's for you not realizing at the end of the day, I'm a goddamn man. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, brother. Peace, man. Look out, family, for Zan Lex with Team Osiris. Definitely. And, you know, we always say follow no man, follow logic. Don't put faith in man. Man is flawed. Follow logic, man. With that being said, peace and power. And we out.